Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up. The line's wrapped around the stadium. Different strengths. I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to.
He look crazy, Bill. Good feet on the old man.
Definitely come back.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. All right, welcome into a Monday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. As always, built for by our friends over at RMB Builders, Rhett Bourgeois and the crew. Make sure and hit them on Instagram. What a beautiful weekend Friday and Saturday had to be the best 2 days of weather.
I know, they were
in
perfect.
2023. I mean,
Great day for it.
Saturday was amazing.
It almost made him play football.
It was football weather, man. Little Jay and I made it out to Tiger Stadium and took in the spring game for a great day on campus. LSU takes the sweep, the broom to Ole Miss. Dramatic win
Hell yeah.
in Game 3 for LSU baseball. We will talk to Doug Thompson about it coming up here at about 7:40 this morning. We'll recap the LSU spring football game with Wilson Alexander. And as always, our phone line is brought to you by Metropolitan Health Group. Real doctors, real solutions. Shout out to the crew over at Metropolitan Health Group. Katie is here. Lloyd is here. Stewie is here. Live here on this Monday. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. As we'll talk a little baseball with Doug Thompson coming up here. But real quick, look, first things first, what my biggest takeaway from the weekend for LSU baseball is Tommy Tanks has got to be healthy. Like, got to make sure he's back and he's in the lineup. I will say the two positive takeaway is Ty Floyd and Christian Little. I thought both of them gave you solid outings. They were extended. They pitched the ball well. They were throwing strikes. If they can pitch like that, that could be a lot of answer to your second and third guy that you can probably, obviously you can count on that. If they can count on guys outside of Paul Skeens, LSU's looking for that, and they didn't have to dip in to their bullpen, which is obviously beat up right now. And offensively, they're fantastic. Dylan Cruz, my goodness, man.
Man, his first grand slam, 2 home runs.
His first 2 swings of the day on Saturday.
Don't throw that man a strike.
Were home runs. Yeah, I doubt he starts seeing many more pitches.
He hasn't, and that's pretty much been
that's
part.
why.
That's why. And they asked him about his approach at at the plate, and he's like, "Look, I understand I'm going to get walked a lot. If they want to put me on first for free, I'll take it. But if they're going to be something to hit, I'm going to swing." And he goes, "I keep it pretty simple up there." Mm-hmm. It's like, that's about as simple as it gets. But whenever you can swing like that, you're not going to see many.
Yeah.
Because
5 runs and 7 RBIs, right?
Yeah, he put up 6 by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Looked very easy.
His swing is gorgeous.
He always
swing
makes it look easy.
I mean, as soon as he hit that grand slam, Ben McDonald was like,
And dude, how about the booth?
Awesome.
Ben McDonald and Deluge both in there in their jerseys. I was like,
great.
this
I
is
know.
class
That's cute.
television.
It was great.
Especially considering how the game, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't the best play-by-play on Friday and Sunday. They were struggling.
Jesus.
They were struggling. It's okay. We're just spoiled by
Can we get
the Baton Rouge local guys.
I just
2
want them to get
Baton
the
Rouge
names
natives.
right. Mm-hmm. I just want them to get the names right.
Right.
I know.
That's like the simplest
I
part.
can't believe in 2023 that still happens.
That is weird.
For as much access
And information.
as information that you have to calling a game, I mean, some of the high school information packets that you get are overload. I mean, a Division I SEC baseball game on the SEC network.
Plus.
I mean, that can't be have a lot. Not a lot of excuses. Sunday, Hayden Travinci was the hero as he launched a 2-out, 2-strike, 3-run homer in the top of the 9th inning to prevail for LSU as the Tigers win 7-6. They did lose Tommy White yesterday as he exited the game in the bottom of the second inning as LSU was down then, and LSU stranded 12 runners yesterday. White's usually the guy that's cleaning a lot of those runners on base up, but LSU now 32-7 overall. They're 12-5 in the SEC with the sweep. Arkansas was swept over the weekend. LSU now first in the West. So we mentioned it going into the weekend that this is LSU's got to get wins, man. They got to stack wins, and to take 3 from Ole Miss in Oxford was huge for LSU, and to get a little help from some of the guys around the league, including Arkansas, who was swept up this weekend, puts LSU in first place in the West, and that's where you want to be. So we'll talk a little bit more about that with Doug Thompson coming up here at about 7:40. We'll talk to Doug here. And remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Katie's Restaurant. Katie's Restaurant is located down in New Orleans, down in Mid-City. Check them out on Iberville Street. Great menu, great selections down there, as Katie's is online. Katie'sInMidCity.com. Katie'sInMidCity.com is the website where you can find out all the information. They also have a sister restaurant, Francesca's by Katie's, that's located over in Lakeview. So you can learn all about all of that food and more online at katiesinmidcity.com. Huge recruiting weekend for LSU football, packed alongside the spring football game. The Stars were out in Baton Rouge this weekend as Joe Burrow was in town. Jamar Chase was in town. Angel Reese was down on the field snapping shots, going up on social media. Burrow and Reese broke the internet on Saturday as they did the kind of the point to the ring finger picture, and I mean, it was I had to stop looking at social media.
I've seen that picture so many times. I was telling Lloyd, it's like I close my eyes and the outline of them is just burned into my brain.
It will be something that you see forever.
Oh,
it
yeah.
really
Could be a
will,
meme.
clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that'd be a good one.
Yeah, it would be a great meme.
Spoiler alert, it'll probably be the thumbnail for today, for the
okay.
show. If you're going to give me the cheese, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah, sure.
I'll walk right in that trap every time. But Stewie said that Angel Reese was the star of the show. It wasn't Burrow like you'd
Everybody
expect,
wondered, yeah.
especially Burrow with the little drop in. We didn't know if he was going to be here or not. I can't get a read on Brian Kelly to save my life.
Well, I mean, like, kind of now.
It's like I told y'all.
Now looking back on it, Kelly speaking with as much confidence and kind of.
I think he'll be here. You know?
Yeah, right.
I mean, everyone thought he would be here, right?
I thought no, because
No.
Cobble was the one
Everybody
that
was chattering about it.
Yeah, Cobble was the one that reported it, but then he came back with the follow-up tweet, was like, he's kidding, no Burrow in Baton Rouge, and he
he's
was like,
coming here for
thought it
this.
was gonna like sell tickets, but Burrow is there for it's strictly a recruiting game.
Yeah, I mean, this has kind of become the annual weekend that Burrow has come in town since he's left. I think he's been to each
Both,
spring
yeah.
game.
Yeah, that's why it made sense,
since
right?
he's been away. So, they have obviously used this to make it an enormous weekend. And look, I was at the game. We were sitting pretty close to the field, and you could see in pregame that it was a who's who of recruiting. LSU did pick up a 4-star safety commit from Deshaun McBride out of Denham Springs. McBride is a big physical safety out of Livingston Parish. He chose LSU over Florida, Tennessee, Ole Miss. He had some other SEC schools. That's the 12th commitment to LSU in the class of 2024. So McBride makes it 12, but McBride was one of a ton of faces on campus for LSU, including Colin Simmons, who is a 5-star, maybe the top defender in the class, was on campus this weekend, and there was a ton of love being thrown to the recruits. This is where you saw Burrow, Jamar Chase, Angel Reese, several others really coming out in style and putting forward at least LSU's best as they tried to really leave a mark on the recruits. So with the recruits being there, everybody was watching what was happening on the field, and after a kind of slow, sluggish start with a lot of overall work on special teams, even though I will say I thought that Landon Ibieta looked really good in special teams and looked really good back there on kickoff return, and hopefully that could be a spot for him. Gregory Clayton was the punt returner. I think Aaron Anderson is going to be that guy once he's fully healthy, and could be somebody that we see emerge once fall camp starts. So after going through a couple of the special teams, which one of the big takeaways from special teams in the scrimmage is that the kicking competition between Ramos and Dibbert is still open, and it still needs a lot of work. They missed field goals from over 40 yards. Ramos missed 42 and 44-yarder. He did make a 34-yarder in the game as well. Dibbert handled kickoffs during the special teams period. He did make a 42-yarder, but he missed a 46-yard attempt. Just very inconsistent, right? And look, we know they've had a coaching change there, and there's still some things to work on, but kicking is definitely a piece of this team that I think you look at and you sense they've got to get that right. They've got to get that right pretty quick if they want to accomplish what they need to accomplish. Because my biggest takeaway from that game, leaving it, was that a lot of the speculation that we had going into it, I thought when I left it, I thought LSU looked really good. I thought, for the most, I mean, look, there was a lot of guys that did not play. So when, you think about what that running back spot will look like with the addition of Josh Williams and Armani Goodwin in the fall, it leaves you a little bit, more comfortable, but impressed. I was impressed with Trey Holly. I thought that he was pretty good back there. He scored a touchdown at the end of the game. But defensively, I think there's more that you can take away than the offensive side. So I'll start with the defense from some of my takeaways there. And first and foremost, Harold Perkins playing at the inside linebacking spot, watching that on Saturday. Him alongside Omar Spates, I think, is a really solid lineup at that position. Obviously, Gregory Penn, who led the team in tackles last year, was not available for the spring game, so you'll have some more guys at linebacker that you have access to once the competition and fall camp comes in. But one of the things that jumped off with Perkins playing inside is how Matt House would use him there if in fact they line him up there. There were a couple of situations where they used him at inside linebacker at a pass rushing spot where that looked like Lawrence Taylor type stuff. Where, I mean, he was in front of Garrett Nussmeier's face by the time the snap was hitting Nussmeier in the hands. I thought him pass rushing from that middle linebacking spot was very impressive. The most impressive play he made all day, I thought, was a run fill that he made when the offense was backed up near their own end zone, and he came up and wrapped up. I believe it was Holly, and I mean, it was as soon as the mesh happened, Harold Perkins was on top of the ball, had filled the hole, came up, made a huge physical play, and looked very much like he felt comfortable there. There were some things in pass coverage I thought that he did well that won't stand out. Going back and watching the spring game a couple of times, you can see some things where Perkins is going to be used there. Just as long, really, as he is in a position where you can use him and his aggressive attacking style, I think is going to serve LSU's defense best. One thing is for sure, look, man, I trust how Matt House is going to use him. I loved how he looked in some pass rushing situations.
He bodied Noah Cain coming through the hole. Like, Noah Cain, he's doing his job where you have to step up and fill the hole for a linebacker. Yes, and that pass pro. Whenever there was Noah, it was Harold Perkins sack or whatever that they blew it dead. But Noah Cain stepped in to fill the hole, and he got a face full of 4 and drove him back into the quarterback. That's a dangerous man.
That's a veteran running back, too.
And Noah Cain's strong.
Yeah.
And it just shows how sudden Perk can be. But they did take advantage of him a little bit. Like, whenever he was in the middle, you saw some things where during those RPOs or whatever, Perk would step up and he dropped it over his head a couple times. It's just a matter of Perk getting comfortable in the middle. And that's what you'll probably – that's what you want to see if you're a defensive coordinator. Like, all right, this is what you're good at. This is what we have to work on. It's pretty much what we thought going into it. Like, he still has – him get into, defensive coverage and drops and knowing when to come up and when to drop back is going to be something he'll learn throughout the year, because we know one thing for sure. If this middle linebacking thing doesn't work out, I thought he looked comfortable. He can still come off the edge. You know what you got in Perk. You're not going to lose him.
No,
but he's a player.
No, he's somebody that they're just kind of expanding his capabilities here in spring. I love how they've handled him. I thought in the spring game he looked phenomenal. My other takeaways on defense is that I was really impressed with the defensive line, being that they had the amount and the caliber of players that they had out, right? Obviously, Mekhi Wingo and Mason Smith not being there. Jordan Jefferson, who is the West Virginia transfer, is a guy that's expected to play a lot more, was not there. Deshaun Womack, who standing down on the sidelines is all of 6'5". It looks like he is built like a that jack linebacker that they're trying to find the replacement for B.J. Ojulari for. With those guys being out, and that's going to be a lot of your first team once those guys get back and are available. I was really impressed with Parashand, the defensive lineman, defensive tackle. I thought really stood out, and then some of the faces at that Jack linebacker, I really thought played pretty good. Like I said, I think that once you get Deshaun Womack back, he'll be the main guy, I believe, in the rotation. But I thought that Ovi Ogofu made some really good plays coming off the edge. I thought Jackson Howard early on had a sack. Now, look, he's a true freshman. He's going to have to put some weight on him. But then the Oregon transfer, Braden Swinson, was another highlight, I thought, at that jack position that, somebody that they can step in. It's kind of like the baseball pitchers that we talk about, right? Outside of Paul Skeens, you know what you got. I mean, we saw Savion Jones on Saturday, or Savion Smith on Saturday.
You're going to do that forever.
I know. Running with them, too. And I think he's really going to be the standout defensive end on this team, right? And if they've got to go by rotation at the jack position, at least they've got guys. Like I said, I think Womack, when he comes back, I think he'll be at the top of that list. But, Ovi looked real. There were some spots where he looked. I mean, there was a sequence there where he made back-to-back plays of a stop in the hole, and then he got after Jaden Daniels and sacked him one time where, I mean, he's running well. And I know Kelly was asked after the spring game of how's he different, and Kelly said, look, he's added about 20 pounds. He's got a lot more football under his belt. When he was coaching him at Notre Dame, he was very limited in the amount of football that he had played. And I think that jack position is going to be an impressive spot. And like we said, that defensive line position, once you get Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo and, even Jordan Jefferson back, who transferred, like we said, from West Virginia, you're going to have some really nice depth and good selections there coming up. So I was impressed with the defensive line, both with the guys that were available and knowing that they'll have some real talent infused to that spot coming in the fall as well. And then the defensive backfield, it's still a little bit concerning at safety. I was impressed with the true freshman, Javion Taviano. I thought that they left him out there and got their money's worth on him. He got a ton of reps this spring and played a lot of football, and he did it all over the place. He bounced between nickel and safety and corner and really showed that he is somebody that's durable. He's got some versatility, and you can count on him. I thought Greg Brooks had some good moments out there. But look, you're going to need some guys at safety, obviously, with Major Burns missing some time and being out. He'll come back and give you hopefully some good run. Matthew Langlois was not dressed out for that game on Saturday, so you're still down some bodies from that position as far as defensive back goes. At the cornerback spot, I was most impressed. I got to be honest, most impressive player. I know we're talking about all these transfers and new faces, and Denver Harris and J.K. Johnson and Zai. Why am I missing his last name?
Zai Alexander.
Zai Alexander. The
Laterrence Welch.
What's that?
Are you talking about Laterrence Welch? Because he was.
I thought he was the most impressive one. I mean, we're talking about all the transfers, but I mean, Welch is the guy that's coming back. He was running. I mean, I think that the second team guys that they had out there on Saturday, Denver Harris and Laterrence Welch, are most probably going to be your number ones once the fall gets here. I kind of like what they're doing with Harris, right? Everybody was, the guy next to me was kind of asking me about Denver Harris and what I thought about him. And, I think that, in that Landon Ibieta play, he kind of, I think he didn't know how fast Ibieta was coming out of that break. I mean, he kind of whiffed on him, but they know what they have in Harris. I think they're making him earn it. I think that they're sending a message. They're making sure that he understands what it takes to play here. But when it comes down to it, I think he's one of your top two corners. And I thought that LaTerrence Welsh was the most impressive player at defensive back on Saturday.
And we had Mason Smith, the former LSU recruiting guy, that is now at
Texas
A&M. But one of the last interviews we did with him, he was like, that's who he mentioned, because we were talking about like projecting into 2023 what LSU needed, and this was before they added Denver Harris. He's like, y'all should be worried about corner. LaTerrence Welsh is an absolute stud. If he can stay healthy, he's going to make an impact on the program. So you saw it on Saturday a little bit of what he has in the tank, because they left him on an island a lot too, and he was aggressive and trust his first read. Like, he was making plays on the ball without thinking, which is what you want to see from a corner.
I mean, he had a pass breakup. He broke on the ball well. I thought that he really looked very comfortable out there. And like I said, I think your top two corners on this team right now as LSU is constructed, I think it's Denver Harris and LaTerrence Welsh. I think those are going to be the two guys that when it's all said and done, that'll be out there. I think Zion Alexander and J.K. Johnson and even Deuce Chestnut, who was not out there, he'll make some time. He'll make some some competitive push to get on the field. But I think at the end of the day, your top two guys are going to be Harris and going to be Harris and Welsh. I thought that Welsh really played well on Saturday. That was some of my defensive takeaways. I thought that there were some more takeaways on defense. Offensively, really, when you think about it, man, I mean, and we're going to talk to Doug here coming up in a couple of minutes. LSU offensively, when you go and watch them play, you really kind of know everybody. You know, I mean, that's why I think LSU has so much expectation around them, is there's so many familiar faces. I mean, after watching LSU play on Saturday, that's got to be the most talented quarterback room in the league. Mm-hmm. That's got to be one of the most talented quarterback rooms in the country, I would think. I mean, there's not a lot of difference between Daniels and Nussmeier. And when I look around and watch people's spring game, I mean, Daniels he's the most accomplished and most well-respected quarterback returning in the SEC. And then when you look at his backup and you watch Garrett Nussmeier play, I mean, there's not a lot of difference between them. Both guys, I thought, played really, really good. I mean, the numbers on both of them were fantastic. Daniels was 10 of 11 for $168 and 2 scores, while Nussmeier was 5 of 8 for 139 and 2 touchdowns. The story at wide receiver was Kyron Lacey. Lacey with an Odell Beckham Jr. type catch on the first play of the game, turns and goes 70 on the opening play from scrimmage. And all of the buzz around Kyron Lacey has been that over spring, is that he's a totally different player. The discipline, the attention to detail, the responsibility, all of what goes into being a high-end athlete in this league at this school, Kyron Lacey has bought into. It looked like it on Saturday. As by the very least, he's third, fourth in a rotation. In a group that was missing Aaron Anderson. I thought that Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors obviously looked very good. Aaron Anderson, you would think, would be third. And then Kyron Lacey, I mean, he's a guy that's right there, as the third or fourth guy.
Is this his last year?
This is his last year.
Aww.
He was targeted 5 times on Saturday. He caught 4 balls. I mean, it wasn't just about that one-handed grab, 70-yard touchdown. I mean, he was a guy that made the catches, ran good routes, was able to really kind of have an effect on the game overall. I thought that Lacey was fantastic. Landon Ibieta could be one of those guys, man. He could be one of those different type of players. I mean, Aaron Anderson is that. By the way, I started watching Algiers America over the weekend, which is the documentary of car football.
Good stuff.
It's phenomenal. The first episode is
on Aaron Anderson.
Got to get Landon Ibieta a new number.
I agree.
Jeez.
Why?
Man, he wears number 24.
What's wrong with that?
He's a receiver.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a DB number.
I had to look it up.
Never see a wide receiver.
He needs to switch with Boy, who's
Why
81.
Does he have it? There's got to be a reason behind it.
What number was
Bryce
he in high school?
Langston.
Yeah, he needs to switch with Langston.
Was that what it was? Is that his high school number?
I don't know.
He was 2 in high
I think
school.
he was 2, yeah.
He looked shot out of a cannon on that kickoff return. That was a legit. He could have brought that to the house. Like I know it's kickoff.
You talking about before the scrimmage?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I thought that was
were
they
you there?
blocked it up. Yeah.
Did you? I mean, you heard the crowd. The crowd was like, "Whoa!"
It wasn't like Greg Clayton took his to the house or whatever. He just wanted to finish the play. You know, like he went Vince Papale in like the Eagles movie where like I'm running all the way to the end zone. Ibieta, he legit had a hole, hit it, and was gone. It was like they don't have to blow the whistle here because that man just took one to the house at the spring game, and they were trying to tackle him. It was impressive.
I mean, that movie made on Denver Harris.
I'm trying to think. Yes.
Oh.
The movie made on Denver Harris.
Like, I'm on my hands and knees.
Harris whiffed.
I know. He's on his hands and knees.
Professor.
I'm trying to think of a faster, and I don't mean this by any
Jason Sehorn.
Just faster white guy that's played at LSU.
Oh.
Trey Quinn was pretty fast. He never
Nah,
got
he
to see
wasn't
his
that
speed.
fast.
No.
Trey Quinn was 4.38
Yeah,
fast.
Coach, he was not that fast with the ball in his hand.
He couldn't ever have the
I mean,
ball in his
I've
hand.
never
He kept
seen him
dropping
take
the
a
thing.
hitch route.
I couldn't get a catch.
I hear you, but I mean, did he even do that at SMU?
Yeah, he was. That's how he made it to the league.
I mean, that was. I know Sammy
Ibieta
Martin
can go.
Sammy Martin,
That's
like
who-
Todd
yeah.
Kitchen could run, but I mean, Ibieta, he was flying.
Just got to give my man a new number. That's it.
He might have earned it.
I'm just trying to help
Maybe
him
it's
out.
his deal, man.
Hopefully BK's watching.
Oh,
What did y'all think about the field? There was a lot
Oh, it
of
was
controversy
awesome.
on that.
Yeah, man. I
This is a
mean,
recruiting
I liked
tactic.
Oh, yeah.
I liked the
path.
Louisiana and the path in the middle of the field. I thought it was cool.
Sure,
I thought the end zones were ugly, but other than that,
I like the end
middle.
zone.
You liked them?
I liked everything that they
I mean,
did.
it's not
I
going
thought it
to
was
stay
a-
like that.
No,
but people
no.
were losing their minds over it. Like it might stay like that. Like you have to have the tiger eye in the middle of the field.
Yeah,
like,
you do.
Calm
But
down.
you
It's
calm down.
It's
It's
coming
spring game.
back.
It's a recruiting tool. It's called the path for a reason.
Guns down.
Yeah.
I know.
They're
they
just
were
previewing
losing
season
it.
2 on LSU Gold. Relax. they just did it for the shot.
It
But
was cute.
I thought the end zone looked cool too. I thought it was, and they repainted the goalposts, made them white. Like they put some thought into
They
it.
really did.
It's beautiful.
Probably did
They
for
did a good
They did
job.
for Landon Ibieta.
Yeah.
He can go.
He can go.
But because
LSU wide receivers,
yeah.
they're fantastic.
Brian
man.
Thomas touchdown and a 2-point conversion catch. Like just
Malik Neighbors.
easy.
I mean, that first play on the red zone.
Easy.
I mean, really.
Oh, that was easy.
it was,
Great, a great throw.
It was a great throw.
And then you saw the defense kind of button down a little bit inside, like when they did the red zone after that first completion.
Yep.
You saw the defense tighten up a little bit. And there would have been, I think it was the freshman Jackson Howard. He would have had a strip sack on Jaden Daniels
No
if,
doubt.
like, if it was in a real game because he didn't see him.
No, he didn't, and he got past Will Campbell.
Uh-huh.
Offensive line. Look, the offensive line is going to improve, right? I mean, I know that they've got obviously 4 high school guys coming in, all that it doesn't sound like they're scared to insert and play. Even a guy like Paul Mubanga, who I thought was a guaranteed red shirt. You still talk to people that think he can add some quality depth to this team. I know Mason Lunsford's coming in, the transfer from Maryland, who they were able to pick out of the recruiting or out of the transfer portal, will be there. And they were very limited in numbers, especially on Saturday. Charles Turner, who was the starting center on this team last season, has been out. And we saw Marlon Martinez, who has confirmed he is not going anywhere. He'll be back at LSU next season, going at center. And then you had, guys alongside on each side that have great experience, right? Whether it's Miles Frazier and Will Campbell on the left side, or whether it's Garrett Dellinger and Emory Jones on the right side, or maybe is it Dellinger playing left guard and Miles Frazier playing right guard. But either way, I mean, all those guys have great experience, and now you're going to add some depth. I thought Bo Bordelon looked pretty good as a second center on the team. I mean, he has cut and I don't mean this in any demeaning way, but he still had baby fat, a lot like, Campbell and not so much Emory Jones, but, when those guys came in together, Bo Bordelon and Will Campbell still looked very much like high schoolers. I mean, they still looked, physically like high schoolers. And for what Bordelon has kind of transformed and looked like now, has been pretty impressive. I thought him running with the second team was good. Now for the quarterbacks, as far as they go, like I said, I think the quarterbacks are as good as you'll find in the SEC. They may be as talented as you find in the country. I think that Garrett Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels are going to be in competition throughout the entire season. I think Daniels is going to be the number one quarterback. That run-pass option that he can run on that second or third play that they were working on red zone where they ran that, and he caught the defensive end kind of backpedaling and then got him in the air. That is such a dangerous and such an effective play when you've got a guy like Daniels who can run that. And there's just a certain skill set that Daniels has that I think makes him the starter for this team. Either way, I think they're going to hang on to everybody. The number of days left for the window of the transfer portal are closing up pretty quickly here, and you're not really hearing any buzz or any names that could jump in there. I'm not saying that they're completely going to not have anyone, but you just haven't heard that to expect any news from LSU there. So hopefully they can get it. We'll get back to LSU football with Wilson Alexander here shortly. Next, we're going to talk more LSU baseball with Doug Thompson coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. If you are looking for a place to work out, if you're looking for a place for summer camps for the kids, keep in mind the Beach Fitness Club over off of Airline Highway. The Beach Fitness Club is online at thebeachla.com. If you're from Baton Rouge and you're kind of remember old school Baton Rouge, it's the old Foxy's. Foxy's is one of the oldest health clubs that opened up in Baton Rouge. It has since been bought and now under renovation by the Beach Fitness Club. They're online at thebeachla.com, and as we said, they have summer camps coming up that are online, and you can register right now. If you're looking for day camps for the kids, if you're looking for a workout spot that offers childcare, get in touch with the Beach Fitness Club at thebeachla.com. Thebeachla.com, the Beach Fitness Club. The old Foxy's off of Airline. Check them out online at thebeachla.com. Doug Thompson talking LSU baseball, sweeping the Rebs, next here on the Jordy Culotta Show.
I'm going to get you boys strong.
Hey Baton Rouge, when traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, whether you need to fill up your vehicle or your belly, stop by Go-Mart and On The Go Deli. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you might need on your trip. So stop by Go-Mart at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left, and visit Tom and Wright Granning and their awesome team at Go-Mart.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Don't let the name fool you. Men's Total Health has offerings for the ladies, too. Guys, is your wife or partner suffering from urinary incontinence, low sexual desire, or pain during sex? Then the O-Shot might be for her. Don't let it scare you. It's totally natural. It's PRP. And Mike Roach and the crew at Men's Total Health will make you as comfortable as you can be. Contact me for more information, Katie at jordyculottashow.com, and I'm happy to tell you everything that Men's Total Health has to offer for the ladies.
Fourier Insurance Agency, established in 1946, locally can help you with any of your home, auto, commercial, contractors, life and health insurance today. Give them a call, 225-383-0682, or log online to FourierAgency.com.
She's on her way up.
Hey, G, I got you something.
Hey, Coach. What do you think? Is this too much?
If you look good, you play good.
All right, then. Let's get it done.
Do you need your roof checked or just ready to get a new roof? Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal has helped over 10,000 customers with their roofs over the last 2 decades. Premier South employs over 300 team members in South Louisiana. They're accredited by the Better Business Bureau. They've been named in the top 100 roofers in the nation for a number of years. And Premier South has former insurance adjusters in-house whose job it is to help get all the insurance money you deserve. So go to PremierSouthLA.com for Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal and get your free inspection.
Premier South Roofing.
All right, welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show. As always, built by our friends over at RMB Builders. Get in touch with Rhett Bourgeois and the crew over there. They can find them on Instagram. LSU took 3 from Ole Miss this weekend. Tigers needed it. Arkansas fell, and now LSU sits atop of the SEC West. Hopefully they get good news on this Tommy White situation, as White left the Sunday game at the bottom of the second. And was not seen again. LSU was able to prevail, and we talked to Doug Thompson here weekly from the LSU Sports Radio Network. Dougie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jordy. I'm doing well. Just getting back in town from the beautiful city of Beaumont over the weekend.
Okay. How'd we do?
Oh, it's not about the wins and losses.
Okay. I got it, buddy.
It's not. We molded young men.
Absolutely.
You know, we got better as people. We got a little tougher. It was a fun trip.
So many distractions in Beaumont,
sorry for the
too.
umpires this weekend, it sounds like. Tommy White, Doug, real quick, let's before we get to White, taking 3 from Ole Miss. LSU needed that, right? They needed to do that.
Well, yeah, they needed to do that, but you always need a sweep. But Arkansas dropping 3, right? They got swept.
Yep.
That didn't hurt. They probably needed that just as much as they needed the 3 wins. But a huge weekend. Anytime you get 3 on the road in the SEC, it's off the charts big. And of course, every school in the SEC could use a sweep on the weekend.
And then Tommy White yesterday, they lose him, and they strand 12 runners yesterday afternoon at Ole Miss. Obviously, how much does he mean to this lineup, and how important is it to get him back?
Well, he's got the most RBIs in the country, so he's very, very important to the lineup. They need him back as soon as possible. I know nothing about what happened with the injury. I hope to learn more about that today. Hopefully they just pulled him for precautionary reasons, and we'll see him back out there soon. To win a national championship, of course, you have to be good. There has to be some luck involved. And most importantly, you got to stay healthy. And, this injury bug, right? We've seen it with our pitchers, but everybody in the country is going through the same thing. They're losing some big arms at the wrong time. And this just fits right in there with that injury piece, right? As soon as we can get Tommy White back, things will be better. But hopefully we'll hear that it's not too serious.
Doug, some really positive outings from Ty Floyd and Christian Little. Floyd gives his career best 8 strikeouts on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Christian Little worked as long as he has all season long, going 87 pitches. 5 1/3. He struck out 3. He walked only 1. What did you make of LSU's second and third pitchers this weekend?
I think they both show that they can win this league. Ty Floyd needed that outing after the last couple where, it hasn't been as clean. And Christian Little stepped up in a big moment. And I really like seeing Javen Coleman come behind him. I thought he threw very well as well. But, yeah, there's no secret. Right now, we need some guys to step up on the front side of that pitching staff and pitch deeper into games because we're so beat up right now on the mound, and those guys answered the bell this weekend.
Doug, from the offensive standpoint, this weekend it was Hayden Travinski. I mean, like you said, to win a national championship, you've got to have some breaks. You got to have some guys that step up. This weekend it was Travinski on the offensive side.
Unbelievable. 1 for 4 Saturday, and then he gets a pinch hit. Let me tell you one of the toughest things to do in baseball. That's pinch hit. To stay locked in, to stay focused the whole game, to keep your body ready the whole game, but then to be called upon there in the 9th inning. Listen, man, with 2 outs, nobody on in the top of the 9th with trailing by 2, your chances there are less than 1%, maybe less than 0.5% to actually win the game. But, we get a walk, a hit by pitch to Joe Bear, who I actually thought was going to tie it up with a home run. And then Hayden Travinski comes up and hits a homer to take the lead. Another sign of a championship team, Jordy. I've seen this team all year respond when runs are scored. I've seen them win on the road. I've seen them come from behind. And now we see it yet again. And all these things are indications of teams that usually make it in Omaha. Now, are you going to win in Omaha? I think making it there is the first battle. And then, you need some more luck, and you need the injury bug to not be hitting you. But this team has signs all over it.
Doug, I don't want to look too much into this, but there was some video that surfaced yesterday of Garrett Edwards throwing a football. Do you take anything away from that? I'm not looking for a medical evaluation from you, but I mean that's got to be good news, right?
Yeah, I guess. I thought he was having the surgery.
Oh.
The reason
I thought. No, I mean, Jordy, I thought he had the surgery last week. I could be wrong, but so this is him throwing a football like at Ole Miss,
right? With a Brady Neal.
With Brady Neal.
But to your credit, Ben McDonald said the same thing in the booth. He said that he thought both were out for the year. So that's what he's saying. I don't know if we're looking too much into it, or he wouldn't be throwing like this. You wouldn't throw this soon after surgery, obviously. So
no, he
would be in a cast.
His arm would likely still be in a sling.
Yeah. Right.
So apparently he hasn't had surgery, and yes, that could be a great sign. And I apologize, man.
No problem at all. I'm texting you the video of it just so you can see it.
I feel like I've been on another planet in Beaumont the last 3 days.
Golden Triangle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I've been listening to the games, but no, I did not know that about Garrett Edwards. But yes, if he was throwing a football on the field at Ole Miss, I can't imagine. I can't wait to get more info for you guys.
Doug, do you remember a team hitting so many grand slams? Have you ever been on a team that's hit so many grand slams?
Well, I was on a team that hit 188 home runs in 1 year. I'm sure there was a ton of grand slams mixed in there. They're all kind of blurred in. But, yeah, I have noted there's been a few more grand slams than normal. We'll have to get our guy Todd Politz to come in and let us know, comparatively speaking, is this the most grand slams we've ever seen a team hit. But they can swing it, man. One of the things that makes this team just so crazy unique and so good is that it's not just 1 through 9, not to bring up that 97 team again, but that was one of the special pieces about that. If Trey McClure was down that night, then Casey Kuntz was going to play and probably hit a home run. I mean, we had so many guys, 12, 13 guys that could start anywhere and certainly were threats to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And that's what you see with this team. The same type deal. You got 12 or 13 kids that not only can hurt you, but they can leave the park. So, yeah, I love the grand slams, love the long ball. This team is so reminiscent of some of those powerful teams in the past.
Douglas, have a great week. Thank you for starting with us.
You guys too, man. Have a good one, Jordy.
All right, man. There he is, Doug Thompson checking in after a weekend of LSU baseball, taking in 3 from Ole Miss. We will be back and return the conversation to LSU football. Wilson Alexander is coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll talk to Wilson about his impressions of Saturday as far as LSU football goes in the offseason now, what to expect maybe here from LSU in the transfer portal, any going in, any that they could be taking out. I know that they extended an offer to a transfer offensive lineman last week, so maybe this is something that they move on here in the last couple of days of the portal being open. Remember our friends over at Premier South Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal that you can find online at premiersouthla.com. Louisiana's premier roofing experts, no matter the listening area that you are in. Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette, North Shore, coming soon to Daphne and Fairhope over in Alabama. Premier South LA is open and wants to service you. Remember, reminding you, if your roof is 8 years or older, odds are you qualify for a brand new roof. You definitely qualify for a free inspection. Let an inspector get up there on your roof today and see if you qualify for a brand new roof. They've also got insurance adjusters on staff. They can work directly with the insurance companies to make sure that you're getting the most and that you can get the best service from our friends over at Premier South. Whether it's residential roofing, commercial roofing, metal roofing, if you need roof maintenance, roof repair, how about some gutters and awnings? Get in touch with Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal. They can take care of all of that for you. PremierSouthLA.com. PremierSouthLA.com is the website. We'll be back with more of the Jordy Culotta Show. Hour 2, Wilson Alexander coming up. We'll talk some football with Wilson here and recap LSU's spring as it is the off season now. Next time we see LSU, they'll be in Orlando taking on Florida State. Come back with us. Jordy Culotta Show, built by R&B.
I gotta go. Make sure I don't go to jail.
Donaldsonville Glass and Body, the trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression, anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
Get going and get it done. Get going and get it done. Corrects done. Personal injury done. Workers' comp done. Truck wrecks done. Get going and get it done. Get going and get it done.
In 1975, Mike Anderson left the gridiron for the grill, opening a po' boy shop near LSU. If you're from Louisiana, odds are you've tasted a dish, experienced the tradition of Mike Anderson's seafood. 48 years later, the tradition of Mike Anderson's lives on with the next generation.
I'm very thankful He's never allowed okay to be okay. It's a driving force for me to just want to keep it as good as he made it.
Mike Anderson Seafood and WAFB, celebrating the community. All right, we're going to talk to our friend Wilson Alexander from The Advocate coming up here in a couple of minutes. We will talk to and recap the spring football storylines with Wilson as he is set to join us here in a couple of minutes. Morgan Wallen was set to join the Ole Miss crowd last night. I had no idea who Morgan Wallen was, embarrassingly enough.
Yeah, you asked me if he was black this morning.
I
That
did.
was amazing.
I did.
Like, he's like
I knew these
the
new-
whitest person ever.
Well, these new age country stars. It's
Yeah.
like
You never know. I think it's
so what happened?
hilarious.
He canceled? So
He
went and
canceled. He
partied?
said he lost his voice,
He
but everybody
partied
saw him at the library the night before till like 4 a.m. or something.
Wow.
Yeah, so he
Ole Miss.
lost his voice. And David and his crew were up there this weekend, and they said everybody was like banking on that Sunday show because the other concert started Saturday when the game was still going on. So all these rednecks were going to the Sunday show, and now they got their feelings hurt.
Oxford never lost a party.
They did Sunday.
Lost all their baseball games this weekend.
They
though.
did. They lost a lot of
In
parties.
true Ole Miss fashion.
Sad little beer shower they threw. I saw the one sad little beer shower. There was no one at that
you had to
game
love that,
yesterday.
huh? Huge LSU fan this weekend, you, huh?
I know, I
Were you?
was. Oh my God, yes. Are you kidding?
How'd Mississippi State do?
We lost 2 to Auburn. So we didn't get swept.
Oof. Golly, is that
We
where
won
you're at now?
one. Huh?
That's where it's at now?
It's bad, yeah. It's bad. I mean, it's not as terrible as Ole Miss, but it's bad.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
guess that's
As
the
long
way.
as Ole Miss is worse, though, I'm all good.
All right, Wilson Alexander, who covers LSU football. He covers LSU sports for The Advocate. Remember, you can read his work on Twitter, and easy to find him there, as we always are encouraging you. I'm trying to make sure I read it correctly here. Wilson Alexander is there at WH Alexander _ over at The Advocate covering LSU football. Still has great hair. Another spring later, waking up with us here on this Monday morning. Wilson, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jordy. It's funny that you talk about my Twitter because I thought about changing the handle now that blue check marks don't matter at all because people always think that it has something to do with whales. They don't usually get the H like you did. So good job.
Thank you. Thank you. I knew that's why I had to get to it because I knew I always I forget a letter. I didn't know if it was K or
Well, Alexander.
All right, so lots to get to this spring. There were some guys out on defense. My biggest takeaways were on the defensive side, Wilson. We'll get to the offense and the quarterbacks and all of what's happening there. What did you take away from the defense and covering them this spring and watching them play on Saturday?
A couple of things, starting with the defensive front. That's a group that's going to be versatile. They can line up in a bunch of different sort of subtle alignments that may not mean a whole lot to the casual fan, but the way that Mekhi Wingo can split out to defensive end and Jacobian Guillory, even though he's a nose guard, he can split out over, a 4-eye technique, which is kind of over the guard. And that's not something that he did earlier in his career. They're so deep there in the front. And then, just included in the front, really at linebacker, I think there's a lot to like there with, there's a lot made about the move to Harold Perkins inside. But that seems like it's going to be a natural fit for him. He's still rushing the passer, either right up the middle as a blitzer off of stunts or, even coming off the edge at times. That's where he's worked on third down all spring. And you still got Greg Penn there. A lot to like out of Whit Weeks, that big interception return Saturday. So LSU feels better about the depth because of guys like him. May not need like a transfer linebacker like it thought it was going to, but there's still plenty of questions in the secondary. And that's really going to be a big piece of how far this LSU team ends up going is what happens at cornerback. How does that group shake out? And then also in the back end, can they stay healthy with Greg Brooks and Major Burns? Because if not, then there's just not a lot of guys there.
I thought the defensive back that nobody was talking about going into spring or a lot during spring that was really, I thought, shining on Saturday was LaTerrence Welsh, one of the only returners in the defensive backfield. What kind of move do you expect him to make here before fall?
He's definitely in the mix, and it's funny that none of us were really, like you said, talking about him a whole lot, but Greg Brooks did. When he spoke with the media The only cornerback he mentioned was he thought that LaTerrence Welch had a really good spring to that point, and that was pretty early on. He continued to get some work. He was mostly with the second team during our little media viewing periods, but we saw him with the first team at times. And, he's long, and he showed his coverage ability there in the spring game with those 2 pass breakups. I mean, he was right on the guy and did a great job getting his head turned around to bat the ball away. This is a cornerback competition that is far from settled. We saw Isaiah Alexander, the Southeastern transfer, out there. We saw J.K. Johnson out there. We saw Denver Harris get a little bit of run with the ones as well. And Deuce Chestnut's going to be firmly in that mix as such an experienced transfer from Syracuse. But LaTerrence Welch is right in it too. And even if he is more of a rotational player, that's a step up from where he was as a freshman who mainly played special teams. So it's an encouraging sign in his development.
I thought a key addition to this team is Omar Spates in the offseason, a transfer from Oregon State. You can see that him and Perkins will be have good chemistry playing alongside one another. At least it seemed that way watching them play on Saturday.
He might be the biggest transfer. I don't think it would be a stretch to say out of everybody that LSU got, because especially once DeMario Tolan hit the portal, they needed an inside linebacker. And Spates is one who's experienced. He's versatile. You saw his tape at Oregon State. He could split out and cover wide receivers over the slot. He made good tackles in space, and we saw some of that again here. And so it gives LSU a really interesting, sort of trio there as the starters with Spates, Harold Perkins, and Greg Penn. And Matt House is going to be able to sort of move them around in a lot of, I think, interesting ways. Greg's more of a traditional sort of inside the box linebacker, and Spates can be too. But with Harold and everything that he can do, and all the sort of different things that Spates can do as well, because he's so rangy, it really gives LSU a solid trio there at linebacker. And Spates is experienced. He's already been described as sort of a leader defensively, because of how much college football he's played. And he's also sort of a model to that room, Matt House said, because he has had so much experience and knows what he's doing. And physically, I mean, he just looks like he's there. This is going to be a huge transfer for LSU.
Real quick, more on Perkins at linebacker. You spoke as if it was definitive, like he'll be at middle the entire season. I mean, or is this just an experiment in teaching him more of how to play and teaching him to be a better football player, or is this a move we expect to be definitive?
This is more definitive from what I understand. He spent the LSU, the long-term plan with him was for him to play inside linebacker. Specifically, he's been at will linebacker, which is the weak side of those inside linebackers. He's not necessarily just like the Mike, right in the middle there, but it is something that LSU always wanted to do with him once he got here. And last year, he was playing out on the edge because that was what he could handle at the time. Playing inside linebacker, you have to know all those run fits, and there's a lot more responsibilities and calls that have to be made. Playing him off the edge allowed him to be just fast and use his athleticism and chase down quarterbacks. But they wanted him to maybe, sort of take that, evolve into that next, sort of phase of his development or whatever, be as a linebacker. And that's what we're seeing there on Saturday, and what we've heard about all spring is that he's going to be playing inside. And that's the expectation. I'd be surprised if he just moved back solely to outside linebacker, because that would sort of be a walk back in that development for him. And so, we saw him play well inside this spring, and that's where he's expected to continue to be. As I mentioned, he'll still be with the jack linebackers on third downs and be a pass rusher in those sorts of situations. One of the reasons that Brian Kelly is so excited about the return of Mason Smith is because of the way he opens up things for Harold as a pass rusher. So it's not like he's not going to be doing that, but he's going to get a lot of work, particularly on first and second down on the inside.
Defensive line, I was really impressed with the newcomers in Swinson and is it Paris Sneed's Shad, who has come in here defensively and stepped in for a down unit here during the spring. You're going to get the additions of Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo and even Jordan Jefferson come fall, but I thought that defensive line was pretty promising on Saturday.
It was. Braden Swinson is still, I think, maybe probably the second team jack linebacker behind Ovie Ogofu, but he'd done some promising things at Oregon, and if LSU can continue to draw that out of him, then you like what you got. He made a disruptive play in the backfield, and LSU may end up maybe he's the guy who can fit into a rotation there. And then Paris Shand what's interesting about him is that he's only listed at 267 pounds, but he's been playing defensive tackle, which is a lot lighter than what you would maybe expect. But it continues to speak to sort of what LSU may be able to do with this defensive front, which is move guys around a good bit, because that size would project maybe more as a defensive end. But he was playing first-team tackle all spring with those other guys out. And so that's somebody else that LSU feels good about, and as a depth piece, because like you said, you're going to have those starters, be Mekhi Wingo for sure, Mason Smith, as long as he continues to progress in his knee as he is doing so and is expected to do. And then, Jacobian Guillory looked good all spring too, and Paris fits into that. And then Jordan Jefferson. Now all of a sudden, last year, we're talking about really two guys at defensive tackle with Jacqueline Roy and Mekhi Wingo. And Jacobian rotated some, but it really wasn't a lot. I mean, Jacobian and Mekhi played more snaps than any defensive tackle duo in all of college football. Wow. And now LSU can run 5-6 deep.
One more on defense. If Harold Perkins is not the weak side linebacker on this team, who is projected to start there?
Well, then it would probably be, if they just were to run two inside linebackers, it would be, Greg Penn and Omar Spates. Once you get into the sort of the weak side and all that kind of thing, it gets sort of down into the weeds of, what scheme and formation they're using. When they use sort of like a base 3-3-5 or 4-2-5, depending on how you want to define it exactly, they use those two inside linebackers, so it would be Greg and Omar. That's the other thing, though. They don't have a lot of depth at linebacker, so, it would probably be the Weeks brothers, whichever one really takes this next step in fall camp. Probably West as the more experienced player. He would be the other one who would step up.
Wilson, I can't imagine that there's a more talented quarterback room in the league, and LSU might have as good a quarterback room as there is in the country. What did you take of that position during the last couple of weeks and what you saw from Saturday?
There's a lot to feel confident about in that quarterback room. What struck me was the fact that in last year's spring game, Jaden Daniels was running all over the place. That's what he sort of knew how to do at the time. He was still getting used to things. And then on Saturday, we saw him sitting back in the pocket, taking his checkdowns when they were available to him, going through progression reads. That first throw to Kyron Lacey, that was really the highlight of the spring game because of the catch that Lacey made. You saw Daniels working entirely left to right. Kyron Lacey was not his first read on that play. And he was able, because he understands his offense so much better now, to get through to that spot, find him open. And even though the throw maybe wasn't perfect, let his wide receiver go make a play. And he was efficient. And then Garrett Nussmeier was just what we've seen out of him in the postseason. Throwing 2 touchdowns, showing off his arm, that 51-yard bomb to Brian Thomas when he did get in with the first team. And he was playing a lot with the twos. So, as Brian Kelly said, you could even make the argument that he was better at times than Jaden was. And so there's so much to feel confident about in this group. You can tell why LSU constantly says we have 2 quarterbacks who we feel good about, because they both looked really sharp in the spring game. And it's all a spring game, as all of this is, so you don't maybe want to put too much into it. But it's good to see when they go out and you play the way that you would expect them to.
Do you expect that they keep both, right? I mean, obviously it would be Nussmeier, but I mean, you don't expect any movement, right?
No, I don't. I don't expect any changes. Garrett is on LSU isn't expected to still be here, and he's certainly had chances to leave during the first portal window. He did not, and it would be a surprise if at this point he were to transfer. Anything can happen in college football, always at this point, in this era, the transfer portal and everything. But it would be a surprise if he were to leave.
I was impressed with the offensive line. I know that they were down scholarship players. They had to, bring some guys from the other side of the ball to really even get through spring. But now, Wilson, I look up and there's going to be a drop off here of some very talented offensive linemen, whether it's the 4 true freshmen coming in or it's a guy like Mason Lunsford coming from Maryland. I know that they extended another offer last week in the transfer portal. What do you expect this offensive line to look like come fall?
Well, the first team is, if it stays the same, it's in good shape anyway. But there could be some movement. Brad Davis likes to tinker and he likes to cross train. And then like you say, bringing in a guy like Mason Lunsford, who has 23 career starts, a lot of them at left guard. Can he push for time, or does he end up being, even if it's just a depth piece, it's a good depth piece to have? So Lance Hurd, the 5-star, the one who told Brian Kelly on his recruiting visit that he wants to play left tackle, and Brian Kelly said, well, we have Will Campbell, and Zalance said, I still want to play left tackle. He's confident, and he feels like he can push right away, and he's the kind of guy who maybe he can. And if he can, and he ends up maybe getting a job at right tackle per se instead of left, Emory Jones maybe moves inside, and then you're shuffling guys around. So we're going to maybe see some of that in the preseason, at least like working on those different kinds of combinations, just for Brad Davis and LSU to kind of see what it has at offensive line. But they bringing back 5 guys with starting experience, and so that it could end up being the same group that we kind of saw in the year last year, just with Garrett Dellinger signing in instead of Anthony Bradford. And then of course there's going to be a big battle at center. Marlon Martinez, thought about transferring, ended up staying, and now he's going to be right in the mix there, competing for a role with Charles Turner once he's back from his knee injury.
Wide receivers always been a very talented group on this team. No Aaron Anderson out there on Saturday. Kyron Lacey looked like he was trying to make his move to be in the top 3 as far as the rotation goes. Landon Ibieta is another name that a lot of people learned about on Saturday. What do you make of this group, and what's the potential here of what they could provide this offense?
Kyron is a name that we heard about all spring. Mike Denbrock backed that up when he said, I love what Kyron's been doing in his press conference a couple weeks ago. But he's just somebody who constantly sort of just heard good things about Kyron. And in his second year at LSU, after transferring over from the Raging Cajuns, he really seemed to make a leap. And this is the talented wide receiver room, but he has emerged as an option, and somebody who is going to push for that starting job, come preseason camp and really be in the mix there. And then Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors are certainly going to be starters. But then once Aaron Anderson comes back, that's 4 guys competing for those spots, and there's a lot to like there. But LSU's going to rotate, and there's even more like that you said that we've mentioned. I mean, Kyle Parker had a good spring. Jalen Brown had a pretty good spring. They're still learning quite a lot, but they've kind of gotten that under their belts a little bit. They made some impressive contested catches. Kyle Parker could be involved as a returner as well. And Landon Ibieta, that was such a great moment to see, because that's a guy who signs with Brian Kelly and this staff kind of late in the process. I guess one sort of cycle ago, and then misses almost his entire freshman year. Doesn't get to play at all. Never really dressed out until the bowl game. He makes a catch in the bowl game. It's his first catch after missing all that time, and then now in the spring game gets to show a little bit of what he can do once he gets the ball in his hands. And get in some space and make guys miss and really show some speed that was impressive. And that's not even to get to someone like Chris Hilton, who's really fast, has been working outside and feels like he's healthy now. And so this is a talented room that will be one of the best in the SEC, if not the most talented group. And, we got to let it kind of play out on the field, but there's so much to like about this receiver room.
What's the concern level around kicker?
Well, it did not look good in the spring game, as everybody saw. I don't know how high the level of concern is, because we don't know what they did, the rest of the spring and what LSU saw from them in practice. But and Damian Ramos, even though he missed a couple of kicks, he did go 10 of 14, last season, as a starter in real games, made that clutch 47-yarder against Florida. But it doesn't. To see both guys shaky was a little bit worrisome. I think the main takeaway, though, at this point, because it is just a spring game, probably the main takeaway is just that it's not settled at who's going to be the starter there. Yeah. Brian Kelly said as much that competition is ongoing. It's going to go into the preseason, and hopefully for LSU's sake, once they actually real games are coming around, those guys are making those kicks. Because if special teams is another problem in any area this season, that's not going to be good. And LSU fans are just going to absolutely, I think, lose their minds if there's something else wrong with special teams.
Any expectation on a name or a projected date to name Jamar Cain's replacement at defensive line coach?
I don't have a firm name at this point. An expected date would probably be within the next week to 10 days, maybe. We heard it was about 2 weeks ago that Brian Kelly said that to expect something in 3 weeks. Okay, so that would be maybe by the end of this weekend. Does that though end up coming up with everything going on in the NFL draft? I'm not sure. Everybody around LSU has said that he was sort of taking his time with this, and that it was going to be something that he really hit hard after spring football ended. Now that is over, he's on the road a little bit recruiting, and he can get out and see candidates face to face and really do some interviews. And so I think that he's now going to really be ramping up this process. And that's kind of where that stands at this point.
Wilson, I know it's not your specialty, but I know you were around the program this weekend. Recruiting looked like it was in full swing, especially with people like Joe Burrow and Angel Reese and Jamar Chase hanging around. Did you see anything that jumped out to you from a recruiting standpoint, just kind of being down in the mix?
Well, the 5-star pass rusher, Colin Simmons, for him to be on campus, that seemed significant in particular. It was great for LSU from a recruiting standpoint to have Burrow, and also just from a broader philosophical sort of thing. I know there was sort of a lot made the field paint, but the path is sort of one of their big recruiting sort of slogan, and they were pushing that and using that in the spring game to try to recruit. And obviously already picked up the commitment from Deshaun McBride. That wasn't just a result of the recruiting this weekend, but sort of a nice feather in their cap there to cap what was had a weekend that had so many recruits on campus. And so now LSU's up now to 13 commits already in this class. That's the most in the country, I think. Last time I checked, it was, and I think it probably still is. And expect them now to kind of be a little bit more selective from what I've been told on the recruiting front as they finish up this class, because you can still sign this year as many as you want, but that's already getting close to probably about half of what they would end up signing. They're not going to end up signing 45 kind of people. So to already have 13 is this class is getting rounded up pretty quickly.
Whalesander _ at Whalesander _ Wilson Alexander, who joins us and breaks down LSU. He's a fantastic follow. He's a great read. If you like LSU, he's a must follow to keep up with what's going on with LSU and LSU football. Wilson, as always, thank you, man. Have a great week.
Thanks for having me, Jordy. You too.
All right, man. There he is, Wilson Alexander, checking in this morning. As always, we're brought to you by RMB Builders. Make sure and check out RMB as far as it goes online, rmb-builders.com. As we enjoy the second hour here, make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. We've talked LSU baseball. Thanks to Doug Thompson for stopping by as Dougie wrapped up the 3-game sweep from Ole Miss by LSU. Tigers going to take on Nichols tomorrow night at the box. They will also square off. Who they got this weekend, Stu? They got Alabama? Is it Bama? Is it
I
Bama
think it
this
is
weekend?
Alabama this weekend, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What about Tennessee, Vandy? Jeez.
A lot of emotion in that game.
I mean, that was wild, right? I mean, that's just like
I didn't see the whole thing.
Embarrassing. Well, I didn't either. I just saw highlights of it, but 17-1.
Oof.
That's nasty.
Yeah, Alabama in town.
It is Alabama.
Friday,
Alabama
Saturday,
in
Sunday.
town.
Tied.
6 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
What'd you say? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
Yep.
Okay.
Gumpers will be in town.
The Gumpers.
They ain't coming from baseball.
You don't think so? Some of them will.
Family.
The ones that are here, that live here, will. There's
Sure.
so many Alabama people that live here. That's wild to me.
Well, I mean, there's so many more Bama fans that just pop up.
There are. You're right.
Everybody loves a winner, which, by the way, I watched a little bit of Bama's spring game on Saturday. I will say this. It was Bama's A-Day, so to have as much participation as LSU did in this weekend for their recruiting visit is a sign of good. One of the key members that was there as an underclassman I thought really played well for LSU is Keelan Moses, who we've talked to a lot. I know Alabama is all over him, obviously, with the connection of his older brother, Dylan Moses. But I've been told by a ton of people that LSU sits in a great spot with Keelan Moses, and him being at the game on Saturday, I think, proves that. So it will be fun to see what he does, what Keelan does, and he's going into his junior season, obviously. But it was a huge weekend for recruiting. And it looks like we're going to pick back up our recruiting segment with Shay Dixon on Wednesdays, not the show, but the segment here on the Jordy Culotta show, where we'll have a ton of information, and there's a lot of information that's starting to come out, both with the transfer portal and with recruiting. So if you can,
Is he coming this Wednesday?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
Everybody's been asking for it.
So Shady Saturday.
Yeah, Shady's
did.
just a busy time right now.
Yeah, it is.
And obviously he can catch us up on all of the names and all of the people that were over there for LSU that was in town. So if you don't mind, hit that like button, share button, comment button. I watched, for as beautiful as the weather was this weekend, and it was fantastic. I think Friday and Saturday were probably the two prettiest days of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Coach, we left the spring game and went straight to the pool.
You had to.
Like it
I
was.
mean, you had to. I went straight from the spring game, went and dropped little Jay off at a buddy's house, and came straight here and got on my bike for a couple
It
hours.
was cool too. Like there was
It
a
was.
breeze. It felt like fall.
It was.
I mean, I know it's spring, so it's kind of dumb.
I
But
mean,
it
it
still
was
felt like fall.
football weather.
It was. That's what it reminded me of.
100% football
Yeah.
weather.
It kind of got me excited.
It was a
for
great day to be. There was not legitimately, there was not a cloud in the sky.
No, there wasn't.
On Saturday.
There wasn't. I looked up too and said the same thing.
I mean, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it really was.
But we spent a lot of time outside this weekend, but I also watched a ton of Netflix. And I watched the documentary on the Boston Marathon bomber, which from an intensity, emotional, and just storytelling standpoint, it's unbelievable.
That's
It's so
why we
intense.
started the show late, everybody, because we were talking about that.
And then the other one I started, and just right now it only allows you to see and to view 2 episodes, is Algiers, America, which is the documentary about Edna Karr High School. And it's actually filmed beginning in a couple of years ago. It's actually Aaron Anderson and Ty G. Hill's junior season. So this is, a couple of recruiting cycles ago. And the first episode is really, a lot of it is about Aaron Anderson, LSU's transfer wide receiver, who at one point was committed to LSU throughout his recruiting process. The first 2 episodes of Algiers America are fantastic. Obviously, supremely biased, being that we live in this part of the country and have, a love for New Orleans and specifically for high school football in New Orleans. Now, obviously, Algiers is on the West Bank, and it takes you in to a lot of the stories beyond football. Bryce Brown is the head coach at Edna Karr, is, just a saint. There's really no other way to put it. This guy has really sacrificed his life to put it all to Karr football. Doesn't have a wife, doesn't have any kids. He treats all of these guys as if they are his kids. And, it takes you in depth. He's a fantastic coach. He's just a great football coach. But that is the it's a phenomenal story to dive in to Karr and learn about the culture, their tradition, kind of the lore of the program. I think when if somebody was to ask me high school football in Louisiana, give me one program, and just kind of like I would rattle off the top of my head, kind of try and put our best foot forward, I would say Karr. Right? Like if I just met some outsider and they were like, who's the most prominent high school program in your state? There's a couple up there. Zachary, West Monroe, Neville, Karr, John Curtis, right? There's some schools up there. Rummel. But Karr, to me, would be the one that you would say, check out what they're doing. Because one thing that I didn't know and learned about it kind of watching the documentary is that they are the first public school in the country to play for 5 straight state championships.
Damn, really?
If you think about it.
That's wild.
A lot of the teams from a national standpoint that have these opportunities are either private.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
some type of IMG academy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Some type of specialty school that just really focuses on football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Did you say in the country?
In the country.
Man,
They became the first in the
Texas
state
somewhere?
to win 4 state championships in a row.
Stewie didn't believe you. He's very skeptical of this.
And
I am. 'Cause,
I can see that on your face.
There's like modern day in California. I'm pretty sure they've been to a couple like in the last few years.
yeah, 5 straight.
Five
I know.
straight.
I want to say they.
Wouldn't you think that would be a Texas school, though?
I would think it would be like a California school or Texas or Florida.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Georgia too.
But you're telling us it's Louisiana.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I've
I mean, that's a lot of their war cry, you know, during that year is that, I mean, they're going after history. They're representing, and I mean, like the way that they're selling it is like a majority black public school playing for the 5th straight championship. It's never been done. You know, I mean, like it was a part of history. Now, the more that you kind of quiz me on it, maybe it was if they would have won it, like that they would have been the first to win 5 straight championships. But it's a piece of history that they are chasing in within the first 2.
That's really cool.
And it is, it's incredible the stuff that those student athletes, that those kids, that community has to deal with. You know, I mean, just the documentary crew is out with Ty G. Hill, who is a defensive lineman at the time for Carr, who has since signed with LSU, and I thought played pretty good on Saturday. I thought he got some pretty good run with the second team. I mean, him and his partners are out one night in New Orleans, and I mean, a fight breaks out in the parking lot, and I mean, it's just as clear as day. There's just somebody that just sprays a gun across the parking lot, and I mean, it's just, and you could see the reality for these kids as they're driving home, just like what they have to do, and like they're just speaking of it as if it's, you know, it's just a Friday, it's just a Saturday. I mean, it's life. It's life for them, and
That's
it's
scary.
It's extremely scary. It is, you know, it's just, it's a great storytell. I told you we met the producer down in New Orleans a couple of weeks back. He's going to come on with us here, hopefully over the next couple of days or weeks, and really kind of explain just the story of bringing that to life. So. If you've not seen it, I highly encourage it. It's a great watch. It's on Hulu. It's called Algiers America. It's a 4-part series documentary that just dives into the New Orleans culture and West Bank culture with one of the top high schools in the country, Edna Carr High School, led by Bryce Brown. And it's fantastic, man. I'm telling you, it is a great watch. It's a great, you know, it's an emotional ride, man. It is. You know, if you're passionate about the city, if you care about high school football, if you love South Louisiana, you know, I mean, check the box for all of those on me. I was enamored. I was captured by it. I mean, I couldn't put it down. And then I would say the same about the Boston Marathon.
You got really into it this weekend.
I mean, Katie. It's just...
I got to watch that. Well, I got to watch both of them, but...
I mean, we're storytellers by trade. I mean, that's kind of what we do. And this story is just nuts.
Did you know all of those details about the Boston Marathon before?
I guess I did, but I just didn't know the depth of it, right? I mean, first off, I had no idea that it's been 10 years.
No, it has not.
That's why the documentary's out. It's because it was a decade ago.
That's wild.
It was in 2013. And just the events that occurred following the bombing, and the bombing is tragic and just disgusting how these guys, these brothers, pull this off. And you know what you do have in this documentary is that you do have modern technology, which is, in something like this, when you're telling a story, is amazing to be able and reference. So all of the video that is on buildings, all of the video capabilities that we now have, right, that video is everywhere.
You mean cameras that are up that catch everything?
Cameras.
Yeah.
Just cameras are everywhere. And this is 2013. This is a decade ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you have to imagine what it would be like now. But, I
Yeah.
mean, just the way that, like, whether it's Ring cameras from front porches or whether it's cameras that are established on buildings just to catch, you know, blocks of coverage.
The security cameras.
And content, right, security cameras of all that they were able to see, find, you know, like just can bring and show the viewer. I mean, Katie, they are in the Boston Marathon Bombers are in a shootout in a neighborhood that would be comparable to being like you were in Prairieville, Walker, Dutchtown, Zachary, one of these small towns that's outside of the big area. You know, it wasn't in Boston. It was in a town called Watertown, I believe was the name of the community, which is about like 30,000 people.
Man.
And they're on a neighborhood street where they are in a war. They are in a legitimate. They are in a shootout. The
Can
cops
you imagine being in one of those houses?
They have. That's what I'm telling you. Like they have footage. They have 911 calls.
Yeah.
They have cameras. They have, you know, people that are like filming from their cell phone that are
Right.
showing and like listening. It's just a gripping, amazing, unreal, tragic, depressing story. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the details that you're able to get from it and the characters that come, whether it's a Boston policeman or an FBI agent or, you know, the family of the terrorists. I mean, it's just, I had no idea the events that followed it.
Is it one documentary or series?
It's a
like
3-part
episodes?
series,
Okay.
I believe. It's a 3 or
And you binged it all?
4-part series. Just
Like
ate
one
it up.
sitting?
Yeah, just didn't. You know, like one of those like wake up at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
type thing. Like just watch it through 7.
Oh my God.
But it was.
Everyone can't relate to that.
No, you cannot. The images that I mean, some of the things are burned in your head. You know that they're just.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 2 pressure cooker bombs dropped in the middle of Mardi Gras, essentially.
God, and why?
Right.
For what?
Right.
That's what's so stupid about the whole thing.
I mean, it's tragic, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's very sad. It's.
And that's all you think about every year when the Boston Marathon happens.
Man.
That's all you
Or
think about.
Just in public, how easy. I mean, like this guy drops a book sack with a pressure cooker in it that just kills 4 people, including an 8-year-old, and delimbs nearly, you know, a dozen people, then affects nearly 220 people were injured by this thing. And I mean, he like walks into Whole Foods and like shops as the chaos is happening.
That's so sick.
I mean, but like all of the video that you see of like those guys in the events afterwards, how they're just like walking around, how they're just taking it all in. I mean, it's the most evil people.
Yeah.
Just having a front row seat to them. I mean, leaves you with a feeling of just. It's a lot of emotion. I mean, it's because you see so much of it.
Right.
You hear so much of it. It's if you like storytelling and you like documentaries and you know you like to go on the emotional ride of that story. I would encourage you to watch both of those. I mean, I couldn't put them down. I can't wait till Tuesday night till the next episode of Algiers America comes out. You know, I mean, it's gripping television. So we appreciate you being here today. We got a spring football recap for you, obviously up and out, that will be on social media. Make sure you're following us there. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Don't forget, weekly wrap-up, weekend wrap-up with Mikey Matuk and Jared Mitchell for Mic'd Up this afternoon. You will not find a more thorough breakdown of LSU baseball. Everybody wants LSU baseball coverage. Get it from the best. Get it from 2 former All-Americans and 2 former big leaguers. One of them was the College World Series MVP of the 09 Natty. Getting and link up with Mic'd Up. What you got?
What?
Cody Boudreaux, CIA up.
What?
I guess the Boston Marathon bombings.
No.
I wouldn't think that was CIA up.
I don't know, man. I mean, look, I'm not scared of conspiracies.
No, you're not. That's what I have to say.
But, I mean, you learn about this story, man. I mean, it's 2 poisoned people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, like, if you do the timeline, I mean, I will say this. It is tough to believe that brothers under the age of 23 can pull off remote detonated bombs that are simultaneously going off with one another. I do believe that they had some type of professional help. I'm not saying that it was the government. There is
how they did it.
They track them where they go home, and they're from Kazakhstan or
they're Chechen.
Yeah, right. And he does become, the older brother does become, a part of a group that is pretty apparently, they don't like America.
Right. Clearly.
But
clearly.
But the thorough and detail of the bombs. I mean, these guys are in a gunfight with 6 police officers, and they've got 1 handgun, and nobody gets killed by gunfire.
That's weird.
You know what I mean? Like, these guys are throwing like pipe bombs.
Yeah. They're
throwing these thing called pressure cooker bombs. I mean, they show this pressure cooker bomb that goes off in the street in that shootout that it encaves itself into the side of a car door. And then they also show a part that because he threw it, it like something like the way that it hit, it caused the clip not to fully expand and explode. But if he would have just set the bomb down like he did in the book sack,
it would have been bigger.
The cop was like, all of us, because we were all in the what they called, I guess, the blast zone. The blast zone. He was like, I mean, but
and probably a lot of those houses too.
Oh my God, they show like the piece of the pipe bomb that does not explode, like still intact, just sitting in the middle of the street. I mean, they also have like images. The image of this guy running out of ammunition and walking from behind the car, the older brother, like into the middle of the street and taking on gunfire from police it is a scene out of a movie. This is happening on a neighborhood street.
Can you imagine?
In a Boston suburb, and it looks as if it's like Heath Ledger as Joker.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
that scene,
it is so eerie and so just, oh my God. Like, it is.
They just don't care. They're not scared of
he's
death
walking
or anything.
straight into gunfire, and somehow gunfire doesn't kill him.
How?
I mean, you have to watch how that scene goes down. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Is it on Netflix?
Absolutely.
Is that right? Okay.
It's on
Bada
Netflix.
Bing, Bada Boom's about to lose it. He needs to know. It's on Netflix.
Hulu is Algiers America.
Okay.
Netflix is the Boston Marathon bombing documentary.
Got it.
Check out Mic'd Up, 6 o'clock this afternoon. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.